Hello, friends. Happy Monday. Welcome to another live edition of Syracuse Sports Spring Football Edition. You got Brent Axe, you got Javon Edmonds, syracuse.com as the Orange enter week 2 of spring ball. Plenty to react to from what we've seen the past week, past few days. We heard from Fran Brown for the second time in spring ball today. We're going to give some equal time to Michael Johnson Jr. Certainly, the presumptive starter, Ricky Collins, has gotten a lot of love. Equal time for the guy who's pushing for the job, too. Let's not count Michael Johnson Jr. out of the race quite yet. We've got some terrific questions from our Syracuse Sports Insiders to get to, and being a Syracuse Sports Insider couldn't be easier, friends. It's right there on your screen if you're watching. You could also hit the show notes and hit me at 315-847-3895 to become a Syracuse Sports Insider. You could try it free for 2 weeks, and it's just $3.99 a month after that to get all the latest from spring practice and more. Some great questions and comments from our insiders that we'll get to a little later on in the show. Plus, we now know that Colorado and Syracuse will not be meeting up in a spring football game, at least this year. So we'll give you Fran's reaction on that and our reaction to that as well. So Javon is here. His Orioles got the best of my Red Sox today. I don't know if you've heard this, Javon, but the Red Sox have a petition Major League Baseball. You know how the Yankees have the torpedo bats?
I saw two other teams with them today.
Mm-hmm. The Red Sox are petitioning Major League Baseball to see if Rafael Devers can hit softballs until he gets on track here. My man's 0 for 19 with 15 strikeouts. I'm not even mad. I'm kind of impressed. At this point.
He plays third. That's all I can say.
He still thinks he plays third, and he doesn't, and he needs to get over it. My goodness, I could get one hit. Come on, just stick the bat out there and leg it out to first. Anyway, let's start with something that Fran Brown said tonight, which was pretty definitive, Javon. I asked him about Demetres Samuel, and what I was struck by is that a lot of players fall back on their training, right? And that's something that Fran brought up in his press conference. And it kind of popped in my head. I'm like, well, what about a 16-year-old, soon to be 17-year-old? He turned 17 on Wednesday. That doesn't have that basis for training. And Fran gave us a nugget, Javon, that pretty much we're going to see a 17-year-old starting cornerback against Tennessee on August 30th in Atlanta. And as has been suspected, he's going to be going 2 ways here. Oh, did I lose you?
No, I'm here.
Oh, there you go.
Playing audio, Brent.
There you go. No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
You playing the audio clip. That's my fault.
I'm sorry. My fault. I do have a clip. We're going to get to that. But, yeah, what'd you think that Fran is already that definitive? And, yep, he's going to start. He's going to go 2 ways. Like, this guy, we're not wasting time on this. Let's put the 17-year-old out there. That's pretty incredible.
So I'm going to save you so Fran doesn't come back to bite your head off. He said most likely.
Most likely, yeah.
So I'll help you out just to cross our T's and dot our I's right there. So there's a question from the text line that we're going to answer later on that kind of runs into where I initially wanted to go with this. So I'll hold off on that part. And I'll focus on Demetres himself. We see him doing individual workouts pretty much every time he comes to practice with the blue jersey on. So the first fascinating thing is, like, once you finally see something, like some of the appeal goes down. So we've already seen Travis Hunter. So it's like, oh, okay, it's not like we're going to see it again. Woo, woo, woo. So it's not as exciting as it probably would have been 3 years ago, but it's still exciting and has its lure because he's turning 17 on Wednesday. But the fascinating thing for me is being up close. Like, we couldn't see how Deion Sanders managed Travis Hunter's workload out there in Boulder throughout the week. All we saw was on Saturday when he's on it. And I mean, you saw Hunter on the field pretty much all the time. So with Samuel, it's interesting to see how they manage his workload, because we'll come in on a Monday and see him in a blue jersey. Then we'll come in Wednesday and see him in a white jersey. Then we'll come in Friday and see him in an orange jersey. And then Saturday, it's whichever one they feel like. And that's not the exact schedule. I'm just giving a a
It's
feel for
different
how
every
it
time.
goes.
Yeah, he's all over the place. Yeah.
It's all over the place. So to see how they manage that and how he is not dedicating all of his time to corner. I think I've seen him in a white jersey more than orange, which means he's practiced with the offense more than the defense. And he's still going to have a chance to be the starting corner. That is impressive. You see the work he does with, I want to say that's Ricky Brumfield that he's been working with. And it's very, very detailed footwork every time. Getting the extra step out of his breaks, getting the pitter-pat out. 3 years is what Fran said. He didn't say 4. He said 3.
Yes.
In 3 years, that guy's got potential to be something because they work with him. And I want to send a message to, I know not many coaches are watching this podcast, but I'm still going to put this out there for them anyway. Free game from your old friend, Coach Vaughn. This is why you get in early on recruits, because Fran mentioned, like, had he stayed another, had Demetres stayed another year of high school, probably the number 1 player in the country next year. If his high school allowed him to do what Syracuse is going to allow him to do, and he put on the showcase that the staff believes he's going to put on as a true freshman, he probably would have been number 1 in the country next season. And listen, Fran Brown's built a great culture. I know everybody that's in the chat is going to scream dark, woohoo. But they're not to the place of getting the number 1 player in the country yet. So you get in early on this guy, and now he's a steal, and you got the inside track on keeping him and retaining him because you're going to let him play as a true freshman. This is why you get in early on.
That's right.
This is exactly why.
Get in early. They innovated. They flipped him to the other side, came to him and said, we want you to play offense, which he was surprised by but embraced right away. And I do want to play that clip from Fran here in a second, Javon, but one thing I've been struck by, and I wonder if you've gotten the same impression, I've been pretty deliberate in asking everybody we talk to about Demetres, because he's all over the field.
Everyone says he's going to be a stud. Everyone.
And the thing that strikes me about that is everyone says he's going to be a stud. Fran is not the first person to say that he's only going to spend 3 years at Syracuse, meaning the second he's eligible for the NFL draft, he's going to be into it. But everybody kind of does the same thing when you bring up Demetres, right? They take a beat, they smile, and they say, have you seen this kid? Or it's a comment along the lines of like, this guy's good. Like, I've seen this from every person I've talked to. Like, they make a face at you in some way, shape, or form, like, you got to see this guy.
That was Michael Johnson Jr. today. He looked at you like, do you know how old he is?
I was like, and he's like, I didn't know if that was out there. He's like, do you guys know? Like, he was literally asking us. We're like, yeah, it's 16 years old and he's doing this. You brought up the individual work he's doing with Ricky Brumfield. I have seen Fran on a couple of occasions when they're doing drills and Demetres isn't out there and he'll call him out, like, get out here, get a rep, do this. Right. So they are giving him as many reps as humanly possible on both sides here. But to say that he's on track he's likely, okay, give myself that out there, to be a starting cornerback at 17 years old is incredible. So don't just take my word for it. Here is that clip that we mentioned from Fran Brown. This is on Demetres Samuel Jr.
Tough, man. He's going to play both ways. So it seems like he'll have an opportunity of starting corner. So he should be our starting corner and rotating in and out at receiver. He's a freak, right? He's a freak athlete. I mean, he could be in high school, becoming probably the number 1 player in the country next year or top 10 ranked, and he's here doing a hell of a job at 16 years old, competing with guys on another level. He's just like, sometimes they say God like hits certain people with double shots. He got hit with one of those, right? And he's an amazing young man. I'm really excited and happy we got him on our team. He'll do a really good job this year. He'll be a sight to see for 3 years in college, right?
So there it is, right there.
The starter is
sounds like to me he's going to be the starter.
Yeah. That makes me go a whole other direction with this. From your head coaches put those expectations on you as a 16, 17-year-old, and this is a guy who played DB at Western Carolina and coached DBs all the way up until he got his head coaching gig. So, talk about pressure, expectation being set on you. Yeah, hey, Demetres Samuel, best of luck to you, my brother. I don't wish to be in those shoes, man.
That's a lot to put on a 17-year-old's shoulders, but nobody has inferred in any way he can't handle it. And it's different, Javon. It's not I'll tell you what, in a couple of years, that guy's going to be good, or keep an eye on him in 2026. Like, no, right now, this guy is going to help this team. And look, it's in the headline. It's hard not to make the comparison. You brought him up a moment ago. Like, Travis Hunter is a special player. He is going to be a top 5 pick in this upcoming draft, won the Heisman Trophy. We're not trying to put those kind of expectations on Demetres Samuel Jr. It's just hard not to bring that up, considering Travis came along and brought us something in college football we just had not seen a lot of in recent memory, right? The two-way player. Now, this Fran Brown embraces it, leans into it, and has turned it into a recruiting tool, and has turned it into, yeah, we're next. My guy Deion Sanders at Colorado did it. We're doing it here, and now it's a copycat or a copycat world in football, and how many other coaches are gonna be like, yeah, come here and go two ways, right? It's a trend that has returned to college football. Speaking of Colorado, Javon, is our first chance to talk to Fran about, of course, now this is not the NCAA itself. To be specific here, it's an oversight committee that's made up of athletic directors and a couple coaches who are presented with this waiver, essentially, that Syracuse and Colorado were seeking to play each other in a spring game, have a couple events around the spring game. Fran talked tonight about they wanted to do all kinds of things surrounding this time, right? Essentially like when NFL teams get together and practice for a couple days and then play a preseason game, right? So this oversight committee said no. They cited a few reasons for that. Well, I'll get into this in a sec. I think their reasoning was, pretty poor, if you ask me. You should be in favor of doing things, not preventing things, especially in this day and age when you can use an image rehab. But again, it's not the NCAA itself. It's its committee, but the NCAA is not going to reverse the decision of that committee in all likelihood here. So we're not going to see it this year, but I guess the trade-off, Javon, is we're going to see it next year. We're going to see not only Syracuse and Colorado potentially come together, you're going to see the revival, if not the spring game 2.0, because a lot of other schools, I think, are going to jump on this trend. We're just not going to see it this year, unfortunately.
Yeah, my alma mater might play a bye game against Penn State. I'll tell you what, if I have the weekend off, I won't be taking the trip for that game. I'm not. No. And you mentioned Fran Brown. Fran Brown talked about those bye game like spring games today. I think we are both in agreement of it's better than what we have, but it's not something I'm going to go watch. So,
I'll go to Boulder to watch it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll watch both. I'll watch Syracuse and Colorado. Fran kind of I won't say he threw a shot, but he mentioned Buffalo. Like, I don't, just marketing wise, I don't know if that's going to really do it for us.
Well, like, and it was the UB athletic director who was the head of that oversight committee, by the way.
Yes.
That shut this down. Just that
our Chris Carlson isn't the happiest with him right now. But I'll say that for behind the scenes. If any of you watching or listening sees Chris in public, you can ask him. But yeah, so you mentioned the reasoning the oversight committee decided not to recommend the waiver.
Yeah,
I've seen the retweets. I've seen the comments. I hate to let everyone down. I agree with the oversight committee, and so did Coach Brown. The third reason, which is the one I know you're honing in on, a complete load of crap. The NCAA knows it does not give a damn about academics. They can tell that lie all they want, and the Big Ten can say that's a big reason we wanted UCLA, and the Americans say that's the big reason they wanted Rice, and all that, and it's the reason Vanderbilt's still in the SEC, because we know academics and baseball is the only thing keeping them in the SEC. But come on, stop it. Academics was not what you were worried about. It was the first two reasons: the fact that it was a competitive advantage over everyone else, and at the timeline just didn't match up.
So when they sent this out on Friday, here were the three reasons specifically. One, the timing of the request, noting most institutions have already planned their spring practice periods, and some are at the end of or have completed spring practice. I guess that's reasonable.
I'm fine with that one.
If you had thought of this 2 months ago and not 2 weeks ago, maybe they would have put this through. So I guess that's reasonable. One,
right
there. Two, the competitive and recruiting advantage gained by the applicant institutions if a waiver was approved to allow these institutions to engage in activities no other institutions are permitted to. The reason I don't buy that one, Javon, is they'll all get a chance to do it next year. I don't think you should punish Syracuse and Colorado for being innovative, for pushing the envelope, for being someone has to challenge the rule. They challenged the rule. They went through the process. They laid out why they were doing it. We're not just getting together for fun here. They had a whole plan about financial literacy and whether you're buying all that or not. I mean, it is a competitive advantage in a sense, but Syracuse and Colorado, I think, would be careful to prevent injuries. And, you don't want to be losing people in a spring game as much as they want to revive this thing with other schools out there shutting down spring games with the bogus reason of they don't want people scouting their guys for the portal. That's just coaches taking advantage of a situation to shut it down. I'm not really buying that one. And we agree on the third one, which was, I can't say it without laughing, the potential academic impact associated with student athletes missing class time to participate in practice activities. I mean, get out of here with that, okay? Right in the ACC.
Yeah, don't we have soccer players traveling from Clemson, South Carolina to Berkeley, California on some
from Syracuse, New York to Berkeley and Stanford and all the exactly. Don't give me that stuff.
Yeah, don't we have Syracuse lacrosse players going down to Fort Worth, Texas? Isn't that going on right now on a random Thursday?
Yeah, so they should not have put that.
I'm just making sure I didn't forget anything. That's going
exactly.
Before this conference, like I said, I went to Temple. I had to watch guys go from North Philadelphia to North Texas or San Antonio or Houston for a soccer game on some random Monday in October. Like, come on, don't give me that crap. Exactly. All of that went out the door as soon as Mike Oresco changed the Big East to the American Athletic Conference in 2013. So stop it.
So Fran made it. Now he said he was joking, but I don't think he's wrong, Javon. Maybe they still would have denied it. But when he said if Bill Belichick and Bill O'Brien, who are both coaches in the ACC, which is wild to think about, had been the ones to think of this, maybe they wouldn't have gotten denied on this one. I don't know if they're citing the reasons they did. Maybe they still would have. And again, Fran was emphasizing that he was joking, but there's always a little truth and humor, Javon. And even if he was joking, I mean, who knows? And the biggest response I got from people when we sent this out on Friday, by the way, our Syracuse Sports Insiders got this news first once we got this waiver and Chris was writing up the story. So yet another perk of being a Syracuse Sports Insider. The biggest response I got from people was, well, if the SEC and Big Ten wanted to do it, it would have got approved. And I'm like, you know what? I can't. I'm not going to push back on that. I'm really not. I'm at the point where I'm like, you want to believe all the conspiracies you want about that? I'm just going to sit here and shake my head and be like,
If Kirby and Kalen had came up with this, I promise you, April 19th on the SEC network would have been a thing. Yeah, no.
If Greg Sankey wanted it to happen, it would have.
Yeah, for sure. Fran cracked that joke, and it has so many layers to it. I'm like, I see why he's telling the NCAA, hey, I'm kidding here. Like you said, there's a good amount of truth to every joke.
Yes, there is.
I see where he was coming from. Deion Sanders, come on, we know.
Yeah,
we know. But the back to the second reason.
Mm-hmm.
You got me to go a little bit toward your side of the fence. With,
all right, come on in.
Come on in. And Colorado for being innovative. Because this is the NCAA. It is a very, very compelling argument, Mr. X. So I must give that to you. Round of applause.
Thank you. I appreciate that. But I just feel like
the only pushback, because I did take AP government as a freshman, and they had us do a lot of mock trials, and I got into a lot of arguments as the lawyer for those mock trials. This right here. They will still reap the benefits of their innovation next season and every season beyond. So are they being punished that much would be the question I pose, because it is, to me, beyond a shadow of a doubt, a recruiting advantage if only those two are allowed to do it this spring and no other teams are. Like, for everybody in the world already wants to play. Well, not everybody in the world. About 75% of high school players already want to play for Deion Sanders. Then you add this, I mean, the leftovers, and I hate to phrase it like this, but Fran will be the first one to tell you Deion's a way bigger name than him. The guys that Colorado wouldn't take that still can play some ball, Fran, Elijah, Jeff, Nunzio, Mike, all of them. Hey, y'all come over here, though. Shoot, that's fine with me. Y'all are cool, too. Come on. Let's turn Syracuse into the Colorado of the East Coast.
As long as they hold that and this does go through, I think you can pull me back to your side on this, because I think the NCAA needs to be in a position, do things instead of just getting in the way of things and saying no. This is kind of like when you ask mom and dad for something and they're like, well, not right now, but it's not a no or it's a maybe, right? And down the road, you do eventually get that. It just wasn't the right time for what you were asking for. So as long as they do it down the road, I'll be okay with that. So,
well, in my house, not right now, and maybe meant hell no. So let's hope that's not the case. that was the nice way of saying hell no at the moment.
Javon, we've given a lot of love to switch to the quarterback discussion to Ricky Collins, both you and I hope I'm not putting words in your mouth here. We discussed it last week, but I think you and I are under the agreement. We think that Ricky's going to win the job. Things can change, and we'll keep monitoring it, but I'm of the impression he's going to be the number one quarterback. When I was leaving the field Saturday and they were running out for scrimmage, Ricky was the first one out there with the ones. I would assume that Michael Johnson Jr. also got some time with the ones, and they're going to split that up as we go here. Fran tonight, by the way, when asked about quarterbacks last week, he was all about, I'm not wasting time. I got to pick my quarterback. We got to do this. He was back in coach speak mode for that tonight, not tipping his hand quite yet on this. But we've got to get equal time because we've talked a lot about Ricky Collins. Michael Johnson Jr. is in this competition as well. And I do have a couple of clips from him, including some questions that you asked Javon here. Here is MJ Jr. on what his game brings. When he comes to the table, these are the aspects of his game that could win him the job. Here's what he said.
I say first and foremost, I say maturity. I mean, I feel like I've been in college for like almost a decade. It's been a minute. Like I was in college before COVID even started, which is weird to say. So I think maturity first. I have a lot of experience like in the quarterback room. I've seen a lot of different, it feels like generations, but it's not. But it just feels like, I don't know. My freshman year, Joe Burrow was still in college, which is weird to say. Now he's like a super millionaire. But
you've seen guys come and go.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of guys come and go. So I think the first thing is maturity, and then also like my athleticism, that I can extend plays, things like that. That's been a strength that I can also sometimes be a burden. Sometimes like I just know when to say when and kind of just live another play.
6-year guy trying to be the starting quarterback. He brought it up earlier when he asked us how old Demetres Samuel is. 17. And here you have somebody on the other end of the spectrum, and maturity is something he brings to the table. Javon, he knows the offense. He's been around. He's a natural leader at this point. Sat behind Kyle McCord all of last year. Didn't get a chance to get on the field because McCord went the distance last year. So he does have that edge going for him at this point. How much that matters, we'll see. He said himself that Ricky is picking up on the offense, and it's a true competition in that room, but he does have that edge. He's been around the block a few times, but I think we have to remember this is just his second year back at full time at quarterback. He came out of high school, went to Penn State, was a quarterback, transferred out of, and I believe it was at FIU. He was not a quarterback. Comes to Syracuse, transitions back to quarterback. So all 6 of those years he's been in college, they're not all at quarterback. I think we got to keep that in mind.
So as much as I would like to lead off with the football on this one, I can't fathom that Michael Johnson Jr. and I were the same high school graduating class. He brought up Joe Burrow and LSU winning the national championship. That was our freshman year of college.
How about that?
To everyone our age that is still in school, my question is, how in the world are you doing it? I couldn't wait to get out after 4 years. These cats are going on 6 and 7. Hey, hats off to them. I know class for a college athlete isn't the same as class for, a reporter like myself. But my goodness, yeah, more power to you. But that does mean something. He's been around. Like we are wise to the people who are normal college age, I guess you would call it. Who knows what normal is these days with all the extra years of eligibility through these waivers and COVID and all that stuff. So that's going to help as a mentor. Here's the thing. If this staff weren't new, I feel like his experience would mean a lot more, because that would mean he actually has mastered the playbook. But this is only the second year. So, a 1-year advantage on everyone else is something. Well, 1-year advantage on Ricky is something, because him and Jakari had the same amount of time in the system. But it's not just some super, and he's been here playing for us for 6 years as well. We got here same time he got here. Year 2 for everybody. So that's the only reason I think his experience isn't going to matter as much in this situation as it would in some other quarterback battles around the country.
Yeah.
But, quarterback is a thinking man's position. Your brain means everything at quarterback. So that's the edge that he plans on having. He's got to display a real sharpness and we talk about a strong command of the English language in our field. He's got to have a strong command of Jeff Nixon's playbook in his.
I got to make this joke because you brought up people that sometimes stay in college for 6 or 7 years. So it was 30 years ago today, Javon, that the movie Tommy Boy came out. Chris Farley. Yeah. There's a great line from that movie when he says, Richard, a lot of people go to school for 7 years. And Richard's response to this, they're called doctors, right? So, spending all that time in school. But you said it, waivers, and he brought it up himself. I was in college before COVID, but he said injury waivers and everything. And this is his last shot to grab a starting job. And it's interesting because we talked to Michael Johnson Sr. a little bit tonight as we're rotating through all the different coaches through camp. And they said that they don't really talk ball outside of in the facility, and it's Nunzio Campanelli who's handling a lot of that. Now, Michael Johnson Sr. is a co-OC, and he's involved in the passing game. He certainly has a say in this. And you've got Nixon, Nunzio, and MJ all there. I'm so curious about that dynamic when there's a lot of father-son connections on this team, and one of them is trying to win the starting quarterback job. And here's what MJ Jr. said about that, by the way, and just the opportunity. He heard what he needed to hear from Fran to come back for one more year and give it one more shot at winning.
When we talked and sat down, he just told me, hey, it's going to be a position battle and you're going to have an opportunity to go and compete. And that's all I needed to hear. I've never had anything given to me since in my college career. So I've really had to earn everything I have gotten. So that's kind of how I like it. So it came down once he said that I was going to have an opportunity to compete. I definitely just was like, okay, just threw my hat in the race.
I don't think the gap is huge between Ricky and MJ Jr., but there is a gap. I think Ricky is the clear starter at this point. But look, MJ Jr.'s got a nice arm. He can throw it deep. I want to see more of the short yardage situations. There was a highlight they put out there, and they're very selective about what footage they show us beyond what we're not watching at practice. But he threw a nice shot to Trevor Pena in the corner of the end zone and one of the scrimmage highlights that they put out there. There's nothing that makes me say what. And again, it's from what we see at practice, Javon, which is not everything. But there's nothing that's made me say, no way, he's not the guy, right? He does have a sidearm delivery, which is a little different. They're about the same size. But I just think soup to nuts, everything I've seen and heard, the investment in Ricky, NIL-wise, everything, he's got to have the edge. If anything, what they're seeing through camp here is, Ricky, prove to us you're not losing the job. But if you go out there and do something that makes us hesitate and you lost the job, here we have somebody who's a 6-year senior, a leader, knows the playbook, and can go out there and run the offense. At the very least, that's what they have.
Here's the thing that's intriguing to me. When he said Fran telling him he's going to have a chance to start is what brought him back.
To compete.
Yeah. Here's my thing. Fran wants to name his guy by the end of spring ball. What if it's not you? There is a spring transfer portal. Do we see Michael Johnson Jr., who said he enjoys being able to go home to his family at the end of the day? Do we see him say, hey, pops, moms, siblings, this is cool, but this is my last year. I need to go play somewhere. SU said it's not going to be here. Do we see that from him? And on to follow up on that, does that benefit SU? Because like Jakari Williams can play.
Mm-hmm.
Him sitting at QB3 on the depth chart probably doesn't move him much, you know.
See, I think he's the more
kind
likely
of
candidate.
worsens the impact when he's QB2 next year. So if Johnson came back to compete, loses the job, is it kind of like a silver lining that if he transfers out, because you kind of can keep Jakari a little bit more happy?
The thing that would make me say no to that is, and the portal era, you have to keep all options open, is that his dad is here, his family is here, and I think he'll gut it out one more year, finish out at Syracuse. Because transferring as a quarterback in spring to go and compete in a fall camp somewhere else and learn a whole new offense and try and wedge your way in there, that's a lot tougher. Jakari, though, who's only a redshirt freshman, he's clearly 3 on this depth chart. I think this is a 2-man race. No offense to Jakari, but we haven't seen anything to indicate that he is wedged in there, that it's a 3-man race. I just don't think he's gotten over that hump. And this is just speculation on our part. I've no inside track on this, but you make a great point, Javon. If I'm Jakari Williams and I've got a lot of eligibility left, got talent, he's got a nice arm, he's mobile, fundamentals are great. It must be, we've seen some throws and some things decision-making wise that's probably holding him back, but it's not to say he can't develop somewhere else and become a starter. It's just not lining up at Syracuse. So between the two, I'd probably say Jakari would be more likely to go in the portal, but in this day and age, you can't rule anybody out.
Right.
So that is the other guy in the race. Wanted to give equal time to MJ Jr., and we'll watch this go along. Syracuse will have their second scrimmage on Saturday as we head towards the spring game here. But from all indications, Fran wants this settled ASAP, and didn't get any insight on that tonight, but maybe we'll get a little more the closer we get to the spring game, or maybe they're going to let the spring game play out and then put the rubber stamp on it. Our Syracuse Sports Insiders had some great questions and comments, Javon. Let's jump into these here. John B. says, what would be your comparison and differences from this year's team and last year's team? And Javon, I think that Fran Brown said it tonight.
That's what I was going to say. I think his clip can answer that for both of us.
His clip, and I don't have it clipped here, but what he did say is that this is a young but talented team. But it is a young team. When we looked around camp last spring, there was just experience everywhere. Kyle McCord, Fidel Diggs, Marlo Wax, Justin Barron, all these guys we've been talking about, LaQuinn Allen, that are many of which of those names I said and some more could get drafted. And we've got a little plug, Jordan Reed, ESPN draft expert. I talked to him today. We recorded a bit for the pod that's going to be coming soon to Syracuse Sports, and you'll get more insight on that. But all those dudes, Javon, that were leaders, seniors, guys you look to. Jackson Meeks transfers in, immediately becomes a leader. You look around, they're just not leaders on this roster. It's just younger. They're just younger, and they're just the ones that have taken on the leadership roles are developing into them. That's the big difference between this year and last year, for sure.
Yeah, I can't add anything to that. That's spot on.
Sam says, this is a fun exercise. What freshmen outside of Demetres Samuel, Byron Washington, and Antoine Delorier make the 2 deep? So I'll turn it to you first, Javon, on this. And we did cheat on this, okay? Because Javon asked me when I said, here's a question for the pod. He's like, true freshman? And I said, no, we're going to cheat. We're going to say redshirt freshmen count for this. So, Sam, I'm sorry if this is not the spirit of your question, but we're going to put out what freshmen besides these 3 could make the 2 deep. Who'd you come up with?
Sam, I did not cheat you. Davion Kerr.
Oh.
Like what I've seen from him.
It's a good one.
Have heard good things about him. So this is what I was teasing earlier. Imagine 2 true freshmen starting at corner for Syracuse.
Woo!
I can tell you right now, there would be some offensive coordinators. Hey, running backs, expect a light week. This is going to be an air out week. We're going to test these young guys out and see what they're made of. So, like Syracuse's total passing defense numbers would be a little inflated. Is how much the ball is getting thrown against them. They probably look worse than they actually are. But That's an interesting prospect to me. 2 outside corners starting, true freshman. Like what I saw from Kerr. Good in and out of his breaks. Knows how handsy to be. Good reaction time. Good hands for a corner. Always say for a corner because, as the old expression says, he's playing defense for a reason, you know? So, going Davion Kerr on this one.
Okay. So I cheated and I did throw some redshirt freshmen on this list. Sorry, Sam. I would throw Jalen Hornsby on there. I would throw Emmanuel Ross on there.
Emmanuel Ross was another one I had. Yeah.
Yep. Ibn McDaniels. Now, I don't know if he can crack the 2 deep, but he's knocking on the door. King Joseph Edwards got on the field last year, certainly, but people were looking for a bigger role from him and somebody who came in with, a highly touted recruit, came right in, very active in the community, a name that people really latched themselves onto quickly. And here's one that I'll throw at you. I believe, I'll double check my notes here, is a true freshman. Yes. So here's a true freshman. So I'm answering the spirit of the question. Darius Johnson, wide receiver. He's getting some work on the punt team. Now, Trevor Pena is the punt returner, the first team clearly, but they like him. He's getting some work, and I'm just going to say that's a name to watch right there. But I like your answer. Kerr. The Kerr twins, which, by the way, you have Davion Kerr, Davien, and then Davion, which is spelled Davion. So keep your Kerr.
I'll be honest with you. If I were their elementary, middle, high school teachers, whatever, I seriously would look forward to parent-teacher conference night because it'd have to be a conference. Like, come on, y'all could have made it easier on us. Davion and Davion, come on, man. That's yeah. I wouldn't be the biggest fans as a teacher.
Andrew has this question for us. Fran always said last year that Kyle McCord was second in command. With Kyle gone, who is now second in command? Given what we were just saying, Javon, that this team's looking for leaders, I hate to say I don't know.
Don't have an answer.
But I don't know if we've got that answer. I mean, by default, you think it's the quarterback. Because what Fran was saying about that last year was not only that Kyle McCord was his second in command, but that a starting quarterback has to be that guy, right? He's the guy. And McCord just filled every description of what a starting quarterback should be, checked every box, walked right in, commanded the room from day one. So it was easier for Fran to put that designation on Kyle because he had all the accolades for it. When you have a quarterback competition and you're looking around in a lot of different positions, waiting for leaders to emerge, I don't know if we've got that second voice out there. That's a good question for the players, and it's a good question that we'll ask Fran next week because it naturally falls to the quarterback. But when you technically still have a competition, it's Ricky or Michael Johnson Jr., I guess, and maybe MJ gets a slight edge there because of what we said with the experience that he has. But Andrew, I don't know if that guy's emerged yet, but we got time. Camp's not over yet.
I'm going to cop out, Andrew. Your answer, new general manager Tommy Camporelli. That's your
There
name.
you go. There you go. Tommy running the show, the new general manager.
Every time I see Tommy, he is on the phone with someone.
Yes.
Like, not texting. I'm talking actually on the phone.
He's working it.
Busy man.
He's working it, man. Always working. Always on the phone. I'd like to see how many phones does he have? How many times a day does he have to charge his battery? Like, my goodness, man.
So I'll tell you like one story. So when the Messenger had shut down, I went down to DC for one of those NIL hearings they had on Capitol Hill. They had the Cavender twins, they had Nick Saban, Greg Byrne, Jim Phillips, and Ted Cruz is running the whole thing, and some other big names.
Oh, I remember that one. Okay. Yep.
Yeah. And I'm sitting next to Ross Dellinger and didn't know it for a good 10, 20 minutes. So I looked at it over at his computer. I'm like, oh, that's Ross Dellinger. And I'm like, man. So
from
I watch
Yahoo
Marvel
Sports.
movies,
For
right?
those that don't know, Ross from Yahoo Sports.
Big name, you know. So I watch Marvel movies, right? Me, my dad, my little brother. That's one of our things. And I'm like, man, I wish I had some Tony Stark technology to just clone his laptop and his phone for all the contacts he's got in there and just read these messages. because I just know we're going to leave here. And tomorrow, there's something that's in that phone right now that's just going to be breaking news nationwide tomorrow. I had to introduce myself to the man. Had to.
That has got to be one of the think of like Schefter, Jeff Passan,
Jeff
Peter
Goodman,
Schrager.
who I worked with at the Messenger. That was another
There
one.
you
I'm
go.
like, this
See?
guy.
Think of the
we were in a
names.
meeting at 9:00 in the morning, and 10 minutes later, boom, here you go. Kevin Willard going to Villanova. I mean,
It's like a Mission Impossible caper. If you could clone all the names that those guys have in their phones, Ross being right at the top of that list, that would be fascinating.
Yeah.
One more note before we go, Javon, and if there's anything you want to add that I didn't mention, please do. But one face we saw at camp today that I thought was interesting. I turned to Javon at the beginning of camp. I'm like, that guy, who's that guy? He looks familiar. I thought it was actually, speaking of media personalities, I thought it was, oh boy, now I'm forgetting who I said to you off the top of my head. I thought it was Tom Luganbill.
Yeah.
From ESPN. But it turned out Will Muschamp, Florida, South Carolina, SEC coach for many years, who Fran has mentioned a few times as a friend and a mentor and somebody whose advice he's leaned on many times in coaching. Will Muschamp was at camp today, just kind of helping out, walking around, observing things. Wasn't really coaching per se, but he was out there as a consultant.
I think he's going to help with the clinic this weekend.
Yes. So there you go. You never know who you're going to see at camp. Not a lot of recruits today, as you can imagine, as spring breaks are winding down out there, and not a lot of visits during the week once spring breaks are over and everything. But
Friday and Saturday will be big.
Oh, it'll be huge.
Recruits, yes.
There was over 100 recruits on Saturday, so they'll keep that pushing. Syracuse has gotten some commitments lately. You guys should check that out if you haven't, on not only our coverage on syracuse.com, but when those commitments come through, our Syracuse Sports Insiders get that text. Sign up today, friends. All you have to do, 315-847-3895. Text the word orange to that number, or go to joinsubtext.com/Syracuse Sports. Try it free for 2 weeks. It's just $3.99 a month after that. And being a Syracuse Sports Insider gives you direct text message access to me. What do you want Javon, Chris Carlson, and I to ask the coaches and players in camp? Our observations, the first thing we do, we walk off the field, we sit down, we have a cup of coffee, and we send you our observations. We send you videos from practice, including a great one that Javon shot today of Fran working with the linebackers. Fran was everywhere.
He was animated with the linebackers today.
Yeah, ooh, baby. Yeah. I'm surprised you got some footage.
He was not happy with the level of hitting that he's seen from that unit. And he got in there himself, like, yeah, coach, take a step back. I'm going to run this for a little bit. Yeah.
And Javon got some footage that did not include some words we had to beep out. I'll just put it that way, right? So all that stuff you guys are getting first as an insider. It's portal season in basketball. Peter Mastorovich hit the portal today, which was kind of an eyebrow raiser for Syracuse basketball. Lacrosse, hot and heavy. Whatever's on your mind, Syracuse sports-wise, be a Syracuse Sports Insider. You'll get it all first. It's going to do it for this edition of Syracuse Sports, though. Thank you, Javon, as always. See if the Red Sox can get the best of the Orioles tomorrow. See if Rafael Devers can make contact with the baseball.
I hope not.
It's only April, so I'm not going to get too upset about that. But 0 for 19. That's something, is what it is.
Listen, on the text line, I'll say this, folks. I'll lie for you before I lie to you. I pay for the text line, and
how about that? How about that?
Yeah,
my man. There you go. Somebody's got to give you that employee discount, but we'll talk about that afterwards.
It's $3. Keep it.
For Javon, I'm Brent. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks for your great questions and comments from our Syracuse Sports Insiders. Make sure you subscribe as well on Spotify, Apple, and YouTube so you get the podcast when it is available to you. We'll be back for another edition of Syracuse Sports. Enjoy the rest of your week, everybody. We'll talk to you again soon.